Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you. It's a bright, beautiful, sunny Saturday, but it's not going to stay that way. There's a storm coming in. There's a snowstorm coming in. The weather models still haven't reconciled. The local models with the European models still haven't reconciled to give a more precise guess as to what kind of a storm it will be for Boston, what in terms of snow accumulation. The models are still varying maddeningly between 4 inches and over 8 inches, without seeming to care that 4 inches is one kind of storm and over 8 inches is a very different kind of storm. One way or another. I don't expect, there won't, of course, be any ninja mail deliveries later today, and there won't be any mail tomorrow. But I've got some mail to show you today that will have to tide me over for new books until Monday. And the first thing I want to show you didn't come in the mail. It came to me. It was hand-delivered to me by my surly houseboy, and it's a treat, an absolute treat. It's this. The Adventures of Superman. This is the second collection that DC Comics has brought out of the Superman issues, various appearances that were drawn by the great Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, an artist who really did more to settle the image book, the official guideline image of standard DC comic characters, than any other artist in DC history. And this is full of just fantastic artwork by this artist, including a whole bunch of there's Batman transforming into a vampire bat. A whole bunch of stuff is reprinted in here that has never been reprinted before. Once upon a time, Batman and Superman starred forever, for 50 years, in their own ongoing comic. They had, Batman had Detective Comics and Batman Comics, and Superman had Action Comics and Superman Comics, and they both had team-up books. DC Presents for Superman, The Brave and the Bold for Batman, where they would team up with other heroes. But also, for the longest time, they teamed up together every month or every other month, depending on how many fans were biting, in a title called World's Finest. That has often been, it's typically described in its comics encyclopedia entries as a monthly team-up book between Batman and Superman, the two most recognizable male superheroes anywhere. At least, certainly in the pre-Marvel era, but I would say even so. But it very often wasn't that. World's Finest doesn't get enough credit for something else. It was a three-way team-up most of the time. It was Superman, Batman, and Robin, the Boy Wonder, who often plays a pivotal role in dozens and dozens and dozens of those adventures. I think that's amazing and remarkable that you can do that, and that you can have. I loved World's Finest, and for a while, World's Finest became a big dollar digest comic. Back when $1 was a lot of money to spend on a comic book, the writers and artists and editors of the day in the 70s, if they could have seen a day when an ordinary floppy comic book would be $6, they would have choked on their cappuccinos. But once upon a time, for a little while, World's Finest became a bigger digest comic. I was still willing to lay out the money. Absolutely. Anything, at the time, anything that Superman appeared in, I was happy to buy. And this was had an opening story that was original, that teamed up Superman and Batman, and then a bunch of backup stories, some of which were original, some of which were reprints of other characters. And with issues like that, you take what you get. You're not. I wasn't always a fan. I wasn't usually a fan of the characters that had backup stories, but I got it for the main story, and I still have all those issues because they've never been reprinted. And I mainly got them not only because of Superman, but also because of Jose Luis Garcia Lopez artwork. So I held on to those issues, and I still have them. They're in boxes here at Hyde Cottage. And they're so old that the paper is fraying apart. Those are all reprinted in here, which is incredible. This also has in the back a gallery of covers. It covers that Jose Luis Garcia Lopez did, even if somebody else was drawing the inside. So I have volume 1 of this and love it, and now I have volume 2. That was very, very nice, and that came to me. It wasn't in the mail because I didn't get a chance to order it before I got it. I got an employee discount at Barnes and Noble, and since the new guy took over Barnes and Noble, he increased the employee discount. So it's hefty. It's almost 50%. So it's it makes these kinds of, this thing came out last year, but it makes new graphic novels far less expensive even than they would be in discount houses of the type that there are many online. So I was very happy to get it. There are a few other items that I want, although the one I mentioned yesterday, the new Marvel Omnibus of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe Deluxe Edition, even with my employee discount, it's still going to be a bite. It's still an expensive item, but we'll deal with that when the time comes. So let's look at the mail here and see what we have. See if anything. I noticed a couple of you have emailed me over the weeks and said, we understand that the publishing industry has changed. Nobody's at the warehouses, nobody's at their offices, so you're not getting a big plastic mail tub every day. And there's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing nothing any of us can do about that. But there's one thing that we miss. A few people have emailed me over the months and said there's one thing that we miss, and that's a Steve squeal. Which, those of you who are new to the channel, there are many of you who are new to the channel. Welcome on board. It doesn't get any more interesting, I'm afraid. It's all this tedious. But one of the things that used to happen semi-regularly in my mail hauls of new books from publishers is that I would get something that I hadn't foreseen that was a bullseye, and I would squeal like a little baby. That hasn't happened in a while because we don't get nearly so much mail. So maybe there'll be one here. Who knows? Let's see here. I think I've got the ergonomics worked out here so that I'm not going to be upset. Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. I've already read a chunk of this, and now I get a finished copy to read it all. The chunk that I read told me everything that I need to know about how good this book is, but I will read the rest of it just in case she stops halfway through and just starts including, I don't know, crosswords. Then I couldn't recommend it. This is by Nicole Perloff, and this is How They Tell Me the World Ends in a finished copy. Lovely, wonderful. This is all about cyber weapons, cyber warfare. Let's see, I don't have a pub sheet, so I'll just read you from the dust jacket. 0 Day, a software bug that allows a hacker to break into your devices and move around undetected. One of the most coveted tools in a spy's arsenal, a 0 Day has the power to silently spy on your iPhone, dismantle the safety controls at a chemical plant, alter an election, and shut down the electric grid. Just ask Ukraine. For decades, under cover of classification levels and non-disclosure agreements, the United States government became the world's dominant hoarder of 0 Days. U.S. government agents paid top dollar, first thousands, then later millions of dollars, to hackers willing to sell their lockpicking code and silence. Then the United States lost control of its hoard and of the market. Now those 0 Days are in the hands of the hostile nations and mercenaries who do not care if your vote goes missing, your clean water is contaminated, or our nuclear plants melt down. Filled with spies, hackers, armed dealers, and a few unsung heroes, written like a thriller and a reference, this book is an astonishing feat of journalism. And the part that I read a chunk of it, I'll read the rest of it today, I confirmed that. I totally agree. And this is totally relevant. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, this is totally relevant. It's even relevant to our little corner of BookTube, where several of you have noticed, I've pointed out in a few videos now, that weird semi-automated worm thread of comments that shows up on every video on YouTube, with the half-naked woman in the little icon and either a timestamp to the video or a plaintive note of, I need a boyfriend, or will you be my boyfriend, or something like that. All of you have seen those worms. And I have warned you, I try to get out the word. The ones that have just a timestamp are particularly pernicious. Because if you don't memorize, obviously you don't memorize how many people will leave and call, the people who leave in comments on your videos. You look at that, the first thing you're going to wonder is, oh, what's at that timestamp? You're going to wonder what's at that timestamp. And most people who do that are going to click on the comment rather than go to the video and look for that timestamp. And the minute you click on the comment, a doomsday event, a worm, has been introduced into your computer, probably into your keyboard. Even if it doesn't take control of your keyboard, it's still monitoring everything you do. YouTube, I guess that problem must be so bad that YouTube can't eradicate it. Either that or that problem is YouTube. And that's the reason that they haven't eradicated it from their system, because it's actually them, a Trojan horse of their own, in order to spy on their own users. I don't know one way or another, but that's this subject as close to home as it gets. And that's to say nothing of the fact that all of your technology is spying on you right now, either for these rogue operatives or for the U.S. government, or for their manufacturers by proxy of the U.S. government, since every one of the manufacturers of these things and every one of these tech companies that we use, all these platforms, have demonstrated time and again they will go completely supine if the government so much as whispers in their ear that they want information. So this is really important. This book is, I think it's going to be really important. I'm very glad I have a finished copy, so I will read it today. That's fantastic. And I will also be reviewing it. Those of you who are interested to know these things, those of you who are, those of you who are maybe new to the channel, I am a book reviewer. I'm a professional book reviewer. It's all that I do. And I will be reviewing This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends for the Daily Star in Bangladesh. A wonderful, beautifully presented books coverage, very lively. They get it. They get how to do it. Not only to make the section look really good, but also to keep it active on social media. You wouldn't believe, maybe you would believe, how many print newspaper book sections don't get that. How many of them just don't get that they are in the 21st century instead of the 19th. You just wouldn't believe that. So I've been overjoyed that the welcome mat has been thrown out for me at the Daily Star in Bangladesh. I love appearing in venues that are far away from where I am. It's easy enough to, once you have a certain name recognition, it's easy enough to appear in venues in the United States. But it's great to appear in Bangladesh. That's fantastic. A place I haven't been in decades and will never be again. And I'm going to be reviewing this book for them. My editor at first was a little bit wary of it because, you know, it's mainly because she was wondering if maybe there is this anything that my readers are going to care about, which is the first thing that any book's editor should care about. And I pointed out to her, this is not a highfalutin subject. This is not a subject for the United States. This is everybody's concern. You have cyber warfare and the threat of cyber terrorism no further than your cell phone at any time of the day or night. So I don't know exactly how much space I'll be getting for that, but that'll be on there. Oh, fantastic! Okay, all right, we're on a roll here. This is for late March. This comes out in late March. I think I mentioned this already, but I'll be happy to mention it again. This is by Michael Blanding, and it is North by Shakespeare. You're going to love this. If you haven't heard about this already, you're going to love this. A rogue scholar's quest for the truth behind the bard's works. Look at that cover. Isn't that awesome? Now, you're going to hear, from that title, you're going to think you know what this is, but this author throws you a couple of curveballs. Let me tell you about this. This book presents the twinning narratives of rogue scholar Dennis McCarthy, called the Steve Jobs of the Shakespeare community, and Sir Thomas North, an Elizabethan courtier whom McCarthy believes to be the undiscovered source for Shakespeare's plays. A lot of you will know Thomas North and his brother. Though not a lot of you, but those of you who study the Shakespearean era or the Elizabethan Renaissance will know North and his brother. But anyway, let's go on here. For the last 15 years, Dennis McCarthy has obsessively pursued the true source of Shakespeare's works with fascinating results. Using plagiarism software, he has found direct links between Hamlet, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and other plays, and Thomas North's published and unpublished writings, as well as Shakespeare's plot lines seemingly lifted straight from North's colorful life. McCarthy's wholly original conclusion is this: Shakespeare wrote the plays, but he adapted them from sources written by North decades before, many of them penned on behalf of North's patron, Robert Dudley. In his efforts to woo Queen Elizabeth, that bold theory answers many lingering questions about the bard while compelling new evidence, including a newly unearthed journal of North's travels through France and Italy, filled with the locations and details appearing in Shakespeare's plays. North by Shakespeare alternates between the dramatic life of Thomas North, and it makes great reading. I haven't read this author's take on it yet, but like so many other figures who have faded into footnotes in the Elizabethan era, North's life makes incredible reading. The intrigues of the Tudor court and the rivalries of the English Renaissance theatre, McCarthy's attempt to air his provocative ideas in the clubby world of Shakespearean scholarship. Through it all, the author employs his keen journalistic eye to craft a highly readable drama, upending our understanding of the beloved playwright and his, quote, singular genius. And you see right there the gold in this book, which is that this is not a Shakespearean authorship controversy book. This is not that. Michael Blanding is not saying that North wrote the plays of Shakespeare. He's saying that North supplied all the material. That has been the major stumbling block for it, and the major grist for the mill in the Shakespeare authorship controversy is that the Shakespeare that we know from the factual records could not possibly have known the things that he knows in order to write his plays. He didn't have the experience, anything like it. People have been pointing that out for hundreds of years. And they have been drawing from that that discrepancy the natural inference, which is that Shakespeare didn't write the plays. This author is saying something completely different. He's saying, sure, you want Shakespeare as the author of the plays? Absolutely. That would explain Ben Jonson's attribution of the plays to Shakespeare in the first folio. That would explain so much. It would also explain the discrepancy between a tight-fisted, greedy, petty, small-minded brewer and the high-minded genius, the multifaceted genius of the plays. Can't wait to read this. I can't wait to read it. It comes out in late March, and we're on a roll here. It's never going to last. But I am also commissioned to review this, I think, for the Christian Science Monitor. So you'll be hearing my opinions on both these books. So we're doing fine so far. We only got one box in this whole thing. There's a box at the end. But let's press on here and see what else we have. This thing's fairly big, whatever it is. All right. Unbelievably, we are also on a roll. We are continuing to be on a roll. Oh, isn't this lovely? Good Lord. Okay, this is February release. I think this comes out next week. Excuse me. We've seen this already, I think. This is Richie Robertson. This is the finished copy of his book, The Enlightenment. Beautiful finished copy. Just lovely. Fantastic. This has a starred review from Publishers Weekly and a starred review from Kirkus on the back. Nobody else so far. I've only read one mainstream review of this. It was long and glowing in the TLS. And this is just his book. Well, let's in case you didn't catch it the last time, let's see here. One of the formative periods of European and world history, the Enlightenment is the fountainhead of the modern secular Western values, religious tolerance, freedom of thought, speech, and the press, and rationality and evidence-based argument. Yet why, more than 300 years after it began, is the Enlightenment so profoundly misunderstood as the expression of soulless calculation? The answer may be that, to an extraordinary extent, we have accepted the account of the Enlightenment given to us by its own conservative enemies. That Enlightenment necessarily implied hostility to religion or support for an unfettered free market, and that this was, quote, the best of all possible worlds. The author goes back to the long 18th century, from approximately 1680 to 1790, to reveal what this much-debated period was really about. And I have read this. I thought it was just incredible. I'm very happy to have a finished copy because it's huge. I'm gonna be very happy to have a working index so that I can crawl backwards instead of crawling forwards. And I would probably reread huge chunks of this. And we're on a roll because I am also commissioned to review this, I believe, also for my beloved Christian Science Monitor, where I do quite a bit of reviewing. So that's 3 for 3 Steve reviews. That cannot possibly continue. There are, I believe, more books in this haul than I have outstanding commissions, I think. But let's try this next one here. It's in one of these white envelopes with the flaking padding inside that so many people have earnestly assured me is not asbestos. I believe those same assurances were given to all of those people who then died. What have we here? Okay, our streak has ended. Our streak has ended because this is not a book that I am commissioned to review. But I do believe I was reached out. The publishers reached out to me on this one, and I took it. I said yes because I say yes to everything. It's odd how many publicists don't get that. Well, the ones who know me, there are quite a few who know me, but the ones that are new to the job or that never heard me or don't know anything about. It's amazing how many publicists are surprised when I tell them, if you send it, I will read it and I will consider it for review. There's nothing, I'm not a siloed book reviewer. I'm not a specialist book reviewer at all. I'll read almost anything and give almost anything serious consideration, not only for reviewing, but also for earnest pitching to the many editors for whom I write. I will consider seriously virtually anything. that was a main reason why I said yes to this, as I say yes to everything. But there was another reason that I didn't mention to the publicist, but that was probably the governing reason. This is something called The Killing Hills by Chris Offutt. And this is coming out in June. Yeah, this is coming out in mid-June. The Killing Hills. I don't have a pub sheet, so we'll just read about the book. Mick Hardin, a combat veteran now working as an Army CID agent, returns home on leave that is almost done. His wife is about to give birth, but they aren't getting along. His sister, newly risen to sheriff, has just landed her first murder case, and the local politicians are pushing for city police and the FBI to take the case. Are they convinced she can't handle it, or is there something else at work? She calls on Mick, who, with his investigation experience and his familiarity with the terrain, is well suited to staying under the radar. As he delves into the investigation, he dodges his commanding officer's increasingly urgent calls while attempting to head off further murders. And he needs to talk to his wife. With an investigatory hero unlike any other in fiction, The Killing Hills is a dark and witty novel of betrayal and the way it so often shades into violence. And this is set in the Kentucky Hills, and Hollers. A weird world unto its own that is very tricky to portray. I have been in that world, and I don't know anybody else, even indefatigable travelers. I don't know anybody else who has been up in those hollers, way in back, way up into the hills, into places where nobody goes, where there is no mail, where there is no electricity, there are no electric wires, there's no running water, there's nothing like that. And there are communities that live back there for 200 years. And you are going in, if you're in the hills of Kentucky, you're going along a dirt road or a country road, then you go to a dirt road, then you go to what seems like a dirt path overgrown on both sides. And if you're walking or driving down those paths, you will see paths branching off from them, and those have destinations. And when I was traveling in the area, I was traveling on foot, and I was traveling with a large crowd of dogs. And the only reason that I was welcome, I think, in a lot of those places is because of the dogs. Because these are wonderful people, they are generous, giving people, but they are naturally incredibly suspicious of outsiders of any kind. And the fact that I had a big group of dogs with me and that their own dogs loved me instantly. Their own dogs are all but feral. They're hardly fed. These people don't go to supermarkets for dog food. So they tend to be vicious towards strangers. They weren't vicious towards me or mine. And that started conversations. That's all you need. If you can start a conversation with the people up way in the back hills, then you're usually okay. It's a benighted area. It's mercilessly hot in summer. It's crowded with poisonous snakes. I can't wait to see if Chris Offutt conveys it well. But the reason why I have high hopes, the reason why I was so eager to get this, is because of the author. Not just because of the setting and because I'll take anything that a publicist offers me, is because this author wrote a book called Country Dark, which I read and liked enough. I liked it well enough. Predictably for me, I was distracted in a lot of my first reading by the fact that the main character in Country Dark almost literally never stopped smoking. Almost literally. There's a scene where he's beating the crap out of another man. And I could swear I think he's smoking through the whole scene. And just a tick on the author's part that the author did not control. That was distracting if you're paying attention to such things. You call someone dirt poor, you say he has no money at all. Where's he getting all these drugs? And also, how is he having his superhuman levels of strength and endurance when he must be hacking up a lung every 3 minutes? Then a critic friend of mine told me the book was, in fact, noticeably good, and that maybe I should read it again and get off myself just a little. And I did, and he was entirely right. Country Dark is amazing. It's an amazingly good novel, and it's by this author. So The Killing Hills, I'm right on board. Right on board. That's great. Fantastic. That isn't one that I'm commissioned to review, but I will almost certainly review it. We have this package here. It looks like it almost didn't get to me intact. That's not good. Any publicity material? No, most of these are coming to me with all right, this seems to be a trend here. Okay, fine. I am a working book critic, so it stands to reason. This is the finished copy of Bill Gates' book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. This is the squintillionaire who, in this urgent, authoritative book, Bill Gates sets out a wide-ranging, practical, and accessible plan for how the world can get to zero greenhouse gas emissions in time to avoid a climate catastrophe. And this is also something I am commissioned to review. I guess that's the theme of today's mail haul. This is a working mail haul. I am commissioned to review this, I believe, for the Daily Star. I don't think I'm doing this for the Boston Globe or anywhere else. I'm pretty sure this is for the Daily Star. That's great. That's fantastic. I have a lot of stuff to read this weekend. That's great. Then we'll do this next one here, and then we'll have the box. What have we got here? Oh, right. Okay, great. Oh, I didn't know this was going to be a paperback. Interesting. Okay. This is by Victor Wooten, and it is The Spirit of Music. And a nifty little paperback from Vintage. We may not realize it as we listen to the soundtrack of our lives through the tiny earbuds, but music and all that it encompasses is disappearing all around us. In this fable-like story, 3 musicians from around the world are mysteriously summoned in Nashville, the music city, to join together with Victor to do battle against the phasers, whose blinking, music-canceling headphones silence and destroy all musical sound. Only by coming together, connecting, and making the joyful sounds of live music can the world be restored to the power and spirit of music. This book speaks to the vital necessity of music in our lives and reconnects us with one of the fundamental bonds that bring us all together. It almost makes it sound like a novel. Is it a novel? Publishers Weekly gave it a starred review. They say this allegorical foray into the power of music is both heartfelt and wildly imaginative. Music lovers will adore this sparkling manifesto. Okay, maybe it's a little bit of both. I'll have to give it a try and see. I'll have to give it a try and find out. I don't have a pub sheet on it, so I don't know when it comes out, but this is a finished paperback, so I would imagine it's soon. Yeah, those little white earphone things that you hook onto your ears and they don't have wires or anything like that were, before the pandemic, when I was still out and about, they were the bane of my existence. Absolutely the bane of my existence. Of course, Victor Wooten is going to say they're the bane of music's existence because they reduce everything to the crappy sound that you can get through such devices. No one ever listens to music any other way except for the snooty vinyl addicts. But for me, they were something else completely, which is that the people who would wear them and have music just streaming constantly into their head all day long would either forget they were on or not give a crap that they were on. I lost count in 2018, 2019. I lost count of how many times I had to say to my boys, my muscular young teenagers, or to endless numbers of people in stores or service industry or whatever. I lost count of how many times I had to say, before we talk, take those out. You're either listening to me or you're not. You don't have headphones on while you're talking to me. Just because I don't look like headphones, they still are. A couple of times, only a couple of times, I got such attitude from that simple thing. Just a very simple thing, that you not have your headphones on when you're talking to me. A couple of times, I got such attitude about that from people who were working at customer service that I actually had to read them the riot act and say, you're dealing with customers and you have your headphones on. You're listening to music. Your response to me when I said, can you help me, was, huh? So take those out, lay them on the counter, and we'll talk. And then when we're done talking, you can put them back in. But now I'm a lonely old shut-in, so I don't see anybody like that. But one way or another, I'm interested in the subject. Anyway, then we get to the box. And it's a fairly good-sized box, which I will not destroy because I have need of my boxes now. But it's as light as a feather. So it could be that it's possible even that there's just one mass-market paperback in here. That would be a terrible shame. It'd be a waste of materials, but maybe somebody had no other... Okay, let's put that down there. What have we got here? Well, it is one paperback. Oh, right. Oh, a publicist told me about this, and I couldn't believe it. Okay, let's see. I have nothing on this at all. I believe this comes out in May. But I'm not sure of even that. Yeah, okay, this comes out in May. This is by Samantha Silver, and it's called Love and Fury. And it's a novel of Mary Wollstonecraft. Doesn't get enough novels. Is this going to tell me anything? Right on the heels of the historic swearing in of the United States' very first Second Lady, I'm excited to be sharing with you a richly imagined, heart-wrenching historical novel about pioneering feminist Mary Wollstonecraft. Oh, little bird, another girl in this world. These are the very first words Mary Wollstonecraft utters to her newborn unnamed daughter after difficult labor at the end of August 1797. Those first days they spend together might also be their last, so Mary begins to tell her daughter the story of her life. From defying her own father so that she could educate herself to making a blood pact to never submit to the tyranny of marriage, Mary met the world with equal parts love and fury, refusing to accept a life of traditional womanhood. Over the course of 11 days, attended by midwife Mrs. Blenkinstop and new father Mr. Godwin, mother and daughter must fight for their lives. Even as her own energy wanes, Mary weaves a riveting tale of loss and triumph, pushing for a better future for girls in this world, passing along her legacy to her daughter and to us. And it just sounds fantastic. Do I remember correctly that Mary Wollstonecraft dies as a result of childbirth? That the time she's dictating this story to her child is the only time she has left alive? I can't remember at the moment if that's true. I don't right now have a big fat biography of this person. I wish I did. If it's true, then this is going to be the second historical novel that I have that dramatizes exactly that period of a young mother giving birth to a baby and then dying as a result of it. Because I also have Susanna Dunn wrote a great book called The Sixth Wife about Catherine Parr that mercilessly dramatizes what that was like for her. And this could be another of those same things that would be rather depressing, but I'm all on board for the story just in general. The thing, I mean, the realities that we tend to forget, and that fourth wave, blue-haired, side-of-the-head shaved, so-called feminists on Twitter don't know and don't want to know, is how the huge obstacles that someone like Mary Wollstonecraft faced. I'm sure that she has been canceled on Twitter. I'm sure that she did something wrong, liked a man or something like that. I'm sure, or maybe profited in some fifth-hand way from Jamaican slavery or one. I'm sure she's been canceled. I'm sure that's what these fourth wave so-called feminists do. They cancel people so they don't have to do the reading. The thing that we tend to forget in the modern era is not only what Mary Wollstonecraft would have told to that little baby girl, which is all the things that you're going to face. You're going to face, talk about a patriarchy. You're going to face a wall, just a brick wall of men telling you cannot do anything, that you cannot get an education, that you cannot write for a living, that you cannot be unmarried, that you cannot express yourself in mixed company in a gathering of other adults. You're going to be told so many things. You're going to face a wall of that, just a brick wall with almost no cracks for you to slip through. In addition to all that, there's also the fact that you will be expected to have children. And until just recently, that was Russian roulette for the woman involved. Just Russian roulette. She faced the very good likelihood of dying in an attempt to give her husband, who she doesn't like and who doesn't like her, an heir. This will be fascinating either way. It's a long way off for me. Some of these things are. This is a late May release, I think, so I'm not going to be getting to it right away, but still, it fascinates. And there you go. That's a mail haul. That's quite a mail haul. So we have, you can't see it on the spine, Love and Fury, a historical novel about Mary Wollstonecraft. We have The Spirit of Music and its imminent death. We have How to Avoid a Climate Disaster by Bill Gates. Tune in to the Daily Star in Bangladesh for my review. We have The Killing Hills by Chris Offwood. Can't wait to see if it's really, really good, but I can definitely recommend Country Dark. See if your library has it. See if you like it. I bet you will. Then we have The Enlightenment by Richie Robertson. Let's put that on the bottom. Try and make this ergonomic. A big, fat new volume on the Enlightenment that tries to set it in its own honest context rather than taking all the lead from people who hate it and wish that it were abolished. Some of whom are friends of mine. I have friends who consider the Enlightenment to be an evil and wish that it were abolished. Then we have North by Shakespeare. Probably the most innovative Shakespeare title to come out this year. We shall see. And This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends by Nicole Porloff. Again, Steve's review is forthcoming, I believe, in the Daily Star of Bangladesh. And finally, not precisely the mail, but a treat all the same, The Adventures of Superman, Volume 2 in the collected Superman artwork of the great Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. So not a bad haul of mail. So I'm going to wrap this up. I have a feeling this is going to be a day of long videos, but I will try to control myself. But I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.